Okay, so let's get started. So today we're going to talk about applying to UK universities. Obviously, I work for a group of colleges. We teach and board international students. So we have students coming from all around the world, and they're here to study a range of programs with us. But ultimately, the ultimate goal for most of those students is to come and apply and to study at a UK university. So we're going to talk a little bit about kind of how the application system works, how the UK university system works, and give you a few tips and hints, hopefully along the way, that will help if you're a student or if you're advising students in terms of applying to and choosing the right UK university. So the schedule today, we're going to look at the UK university system. We're going to talk a little bit about the application process, and then we're going to very briefly cover some of the fees, some of the scholarships that might be available as an international student, and a little bit about some of the other factors of student life that you need to consider when you're applying to a UK university from overseas as well. So some of the other costs and some of the other opportunities that are available if you're studying in the UK. Okay, so next slide. So this is what we're talking about really. Why choose a UK university? And you can see on my picture there, I've got a lovely picture of a typical UK university, what we all imagine it to be like. And I can definitely say that it is an imagination of a typical UK university because it's what ChatGPT or AI came up with. And I asked it to create an image of a typical UK university. And those of you who've been to the UK, I think potentially when you think about a UK university, this kind of might be an image that you might envision, a sort of traditional building, lush green lawns, students walking around with books, conversing, having coffees on the lawn. I think obviously there is certainly a number of universities that look like that, but the UK university sector is incredibly diverse and incredibly wide-ranging, and there are a range of locations and different institutions that you can choose to study from. But it's interesting. I think there's some things on there that are accurate and some things that I would say are less accurate. But it's interesting that AI, when I asked it to consider a typical UK university, this is the image it came up with. Okay, so why choose a UK university? A number of factors play into this. I would say first and foremost, obviously the reputation and the academic reputation of UK universities is recognised and respected across the globe. So students from overseas want to come and study in the UK because of that reputation, because of that prestige, and because of that cachet that it gives students when they have a degree from a UK university. They're well recognised globally. UK universities consistently rank highly and consistently punch above their weight in terms of global university rankings. The latest QS rankings for 2024 had 3 UK universities in the top 5 globally. And the UK is the country with the second most number of universities in the guide after the United States of America, and followed by China. So when you consider the size of those two countries either side of the UK, you can see that the UK, for its size, has a large number, a much higher number of world-renowned universities, probably, per person or per square foot than any other country in the world. So UK universities are well respected. They are established across the globe. They have a reputation for innovative teaching, very strong research, and obviously for that academic excellence. The good news as well, as an international student, is you'll be very welcome at a UK university. They're very diverse and multicultural places. We have students from over 100 countries currently studying in UK universities. It's very inclusive. I was talking to one of our former students the other day who's at UCL, University College London, and she's an Iranian student, and she's now the president of or the incoming president of the Iranian Society at UCL. So there's a great opportunity to mix with students from around the world, but also to find students from the same country as well. So it's a very welcoming environment. And you have that opportunity to build those networks, build those friendships with students, both British and from around the world. So you're very welcome in UK universities. They actively want international students, and they want to create a welcoming environment that fosters friendships, but also fosters that sort of cross-cultural learning as well. There's an incredibly wide range of courses to study at UK universities, and a wide range of different subject combinations, duration options as well. So there will definitely be a course for you. There are literally thousands of undergraduate and postgraduate course options that you can choose to study, some of which are very broad and very traditional. You think of a natural sciences or an economics or a physics course. right down to very, very niche courses as well. So whatever your area of interest is, you'll be able to find a course that suits that need. There are different duration options. There are options for postgraduate study, part-time online courses, and also sandwich courses as well. So that's where a student will take a year out of their undergraduate studies to do a placement in industry as well, which is certainly become more popular amongst UK universities in the last sort of 10, 15 years. The other thing as well is, there is a great opportunity when you are coming out of a UK university to find employment, either in the UK or at home. And UK universities have a real commitment to aid students and to help students find employment after university as well. So there are lots of links with employers that UK universities develop. Things like the sandwich courses as well give you a great head start in terms of working in industry whilst you're studying. And there are really strong alumni networks that you can also leverage when you leave to build networks to help you find employment. So there are a number of really strong reasons why students are looking to study at UK universities. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the universities themselves. We have approximately 160 recognised universities in the UK, all around the United Kingdom, and we can group them. Sometimes these are groupings that the universities themselves create, and sometimes they're groupings that we give them, so we assign to them as well. But it helps us just understand the slight differences and sort of also match some types of universities together, so we can get a better understanding of the picture as a whole rather than looking at every single university individually. The most famous university grouping you've probably heard about if you've looked at UK universities is the Russell Group. So the way to think of the Russell Group is the traditional research intensive kind of equivalent of the Ivy League in the US of the UK universities. So these are very research intensive. They are a grouping of 24, so it's a club of 24 universities. And within that, you'll find very famous universities such as Oxford, Cambridge, Manchester, Imperial College London, King's College in London as well. Within the Russell Group, there is a smaller subset called the G5 that you may have heard of. This is a more loose organisation of universities, but there is a membership there, and the G5 consists of Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial College London, University College London, and the London School of Economics. So you can see 3 of those universities are London centric and 2 in the southeast as well. So they're also geographically quite close to each other. And these are traditionally considered to be the top 5 UK universities, traditionally. Now, other groupings you might hear are red brick universities. Again, this tends to refer to universities in the larger cities that are at least 100 or 200 years old, that kind of were founded out of a time called the Industrial Revolution in the UK. So one of the most famous ones I'm sure you've heard of is Manchester University, Birmingham University, which actually the picture you can see there of the red brick building is actually the University of Birmingham, which is considered perhaps to be one of the original red brick universities. So when we talk about these types of universities, certainly from the Russell Group and the G5, they tend to be the more prestigious, more traditional universities here in the UK, and they tend to be the more competitive universities. What I mean by that is there are more students applying for places than there are places that they can offer in any given year. So you can see some stats I've just put at the bottom of the screen there just to give you an idea of the level of competitiveness. If you're applying to Oxbridge, across all their courses, there are about 6 or 7 applicants for every place that is available. That is a broad assessment across all of their undergraduate courses. If you go into courses like medicine, for example, or perhaps engineering, it becomes much higher. So you can see actually in some cases it's over 20 applicants per place. So it's incredibly competitive to get into these universities. Imperial College London, one of the members of the G5 group, ranked 2nd globally in the last UCAS rankings. You can see there's an 11% applicant success rating. But one thing is also important to notice is that when we look at the Russell Group, for example, there's a wide range of competitiveness across it. Some universities within that Russell Group, they might have a less than 5% success rate, whereas some are over 85% rate. So it's really important to understand the environment where you're applying, but also understand the individual university And this acceptance rate also varies by course as well. So it's really important to have an understanding of the course you want to apply at the university you want to apply, and to have ambitious choices, but also have second choices in case you don't get into that first choice place. The second sort of groupings that we can look at tend to refer to less traditional universities, universities that have either grown or been recognised in the last sort of 50 to 100 years. And some of those names that you might hear, this was quite a new one to me, I must admit, the plate glass universities. So this comes out of the 1960s in the UK, when the UK government decided that there needed to be wider access to university study. So they authorised the creation of a large number of new universities. They're called plate glass universities because their buildings are more modern, use things like plate glass. So you can see kind of a theme running along red brick to plate glass. And that includes universities like Lancaster, which is usually ranked in the top 20 of UK universities, East Anglia and Sussex. And then you go into post-1992 universities. Again, these are universities that existed pre-1992, but were more vocational colleges, which mean they were preparing students for a particular type of work, or their study was more practical rather than theoretical. So these were granted university status after 1992. And you can see some of the more prominent universities listed there below, places like Coventry, which again is usually ranked pretty highly in the National League tables, Manchester Met, Westminster there. And then you have specialist institutions. So these are institutions that specialize in a particular subject or course area. So a good example might be in art or music. You have specialist colleges that focus in those areas, or in business. There are a number of specialist business schools around the country that just focus on business related subjects. So business, finance, accounting, those types of subjects as well. Broadly speaking, when you look outside of the Russell Group and the G5, acceptance rates tend to be higher. Most international students studying in the UK outside of postgraduate study, so undergraduate study, tend to be studying some of these universities. So they are much more diverse environments. They have higher levels of specialization, whereas a traditional Russell Group university will have a broad range of subjects that they will cover. Some of these more modern universities might focus on a few different subject areas, but that's not necessarily always the case. And they tend to be more vocational. So these universities really drove the growth in sandwich placements that I've talked about before, where students will take a year out of their studies, usually around between years 2 and 3, and they will go and actually work in an employment environment related to their subject. So, for example, if you are studying finance and accountancy, you might go and study in the City of London at a firm there. And this gives you great practical experience, but also gives you a foot in or a link with that particular employer. And it's great to put on your CV when you're then looking for work outside of university life. Okay, so we're just going to move on. A very brief kind of overview of the different types of courses that are offered at university. There are a wider range of courses in these, but these are the most common ones amongst international students. We can divide university studies into undergraduate and postgraduate. When we say undergraduate, this is directly the courses that students go into after they've left secondary or further education. So the typical term you'll hear might be a bachelor's degree, which can be a 3 or 4 year degree, and they are obviously taken in a wide range of subject areas as well. Foundation programs can be taken within the university. So this is if a student doesn't quite meet the requirements to go on to a direct undergraduate or bachelor's degree. They can look to do a foundation program either in the university or with a subject provider. Our colleges offer a 1-year foundation program, which gives direct access into a wide range of UK universities. And like I say, some degrees offer placement years, study abroad years as well. So undergraduate, you're thinking about 3 to 4 years, depending on the subject area, but typically 3-year courses. Year 1, you'll be assessed at the end of. Year 2, you'll be assessed at the end of, and then you'll usually have some sort of final dissertation alongside assessments that take place in the final year of those undergraduate courses. And then when we go into postgraduate courses, things like master's degrees are 1-year programs if taken as full-time. And again, these give you the opportunity to go deeper into a particular subject area as well. So quite commonly for international students, I would say they would take the undergraduate 3-year course, and then they would take a master's degree at the end of that as well, just to increase their knowledge, increase their subject experience in that particular area, or to specialize in a particular area related to it. So for example, if you were a business undergraduate student, you might want to do a master's in marketing or finance, because that's the area that you've decided you want to pivot in for your career, as you've been exposed to it through your undergraduate course. There are also research degrees, so research masters and postdoctoral degrees. So you'll hear maybe the term PhD student. That is a student who's conducting their own independent research supported by the university, and that can be over a period of 3 to 4 years as well. And at the end of that, they'll have the PhD awarded, and they will also generally be given the title of a doctor as well. So if you've heard of a doctor of engineering, that is because they've completed their PhD. Quite often students, when they complete their PhD, will go into a career in education after that. Not always. So I'll get back to and end the first poll because it was related to this. So what type of UK universities are most popular with international students? I'm going to share the results so you can see. So we've got foundation courses, undergraduate courses, and postgraduate courses. So foundation was the most popular there, and undergraduate courses and postgraduate courses. So undergraduate courses came third, postgraduate courses came second. Now there may be a little bit of a trick in this question. I'm talking about actually in universities themselves rather than providers who provide foundation courses, but actually students in university, international students. The highest percentage is actually in postgraduate courses. So the vast majority of international students are currently studying on postgraduate courses here in the UK. Postgraduate students, international students make up nearly 40% of all postgraduate students here in the UK, whereas they make up about 15% of undergraduate students here in the UK. So that's quite an interesting development, I think. Let me just see, because I've got one more question that relates to the next one. I'm going to see if I can pop that up for you, just so we can have a go at that. If I can find my polls, I'm just going to see if I can get the second one. And this one is, let's see if I can stop sharing that one and launch. Okay, so there's another one I've just popped up there just for you to have a little go in around the #1 ranked UK university. So if you want to have a go at that, do give it a try. There's 4 options there, and I'll be coming to that very shortly. So if you do want to have a go quickly, because we're going to get to it very soon. Okay, so we've talked about the university system, the different types of universities. We've talked about the different courses. When we're looking at universities, it's, to consider studying at, it's really important that we understand the different options and the different courses that we might want to study on and what might be right for us. But then how do we differentiate between individual universities? Well, one of the ways we can do that is look at rankings. So universities in the UK are ranked every year by different institutions, not by the universities themselves, I should say, but these are external rankings conducted by bodies such as the Times newspapers, also the Guardian newspapers, and there's also guides like the Good University Guides and international university rankings, which you can look at as well. These are useful because they will enable you to compare universities both broadly in terms of the overall ranking of universities, and then also by the subject. So you can really drill down and say, okay, I want to look at the University of Lancaster, their engineering courses. How do they perform against other engineering related courses at other universities? So you'll see a broad ranking, and then you'll also see subject by subject rankings. And this is really where you can get a good sense of if universities have particular areas of specialism that they're very good at, or if they're broadly good across the range of subjects that are offered. It's really important to use rankings as a guide and not the only factor when you are considering them as well. Rankings are subjective. Universities are not assessed on their results in the same way that schools and colleges are. There is no national assessment. The universities make their own decisions about what awards they give to their students. So it's not easy to say students achieve this level of degree, so this university is better than this one. It is given by the university. Also, some rankings might place a heavier weight on the quality of research output from a university. So this is the postgraduate research that is conducted. which is great. It's good to know that there's quality research coming out of university. It's one of the most useful things that universities can do for wider society. But if you're an undergraduate student, you might be more interested in the quality of the teaching on the undergraduate course that you're studying, or you might be more interested in what are the chances of me finding a good job when I leave university. So do be aware of the rankings and how they're made up, and don't take them as your complete guide to your university selection. They are a useful tool for consideration. Okay, so let's have a look at our poll. I'm going to end it now and just share just so you can see the results. So our top rank was the University of Oxford, followed by the University of St Andrews, followed by Cambridge, University of Oxford, Cambridge, St Andrews, and then London School of Economics, the last ranked. Okay, well, I'm going to pop up 3 of the rankings from this year just to give you an idea and let you have a look at that. There we go. So we have the Times Good University Guide, which is probably the most widely recognized university ranking system, both in the UK and internationally. And you can see top of that guide, we've got LSE. The Guardian University, so well done for everyone who said LSE. Guardian ranks Oxford as the top, and the Good University Guide ranks the London School of Economics. So if you said the London School of Economics, not many of you, well done, one of you, you were correct. Those of you who said Oxford, you were also correct, depending on the university ranking system that you look at. But the point I wanted to make was that these rankings do vary year on year and between each other. Okay, so do take them with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Understand the underlying metrics they're looking at. That will help you make your decision. And as you can see from looking at this ranking, you see the same names pop up with pretty much regularity. So you can take that as a broad overall guide that these are good quality UK universities. But do take it with a little pinch of salt. Interestingly, you can see Cambridge, where I'm sitting, where I'm from, ranked a little bit lower. You can see Imperial there, pretty standard at 5. If you do the global, if you look at the global rankings from QS, that's actually ranked number 2. So it's the highest ranking if you look at from a global level with the QS rankings. So there is some jostling about in this as well. And do try to understand, you know, a certain university might be ranked very highly for student satisfaction. So that's the students themselves talking about how the university treats them. Whereas another university might be lower ranked for student satisfaction in a particular area, but might be higher ranked for graduate outcomes. So that's the employment chances of students when they leave, or maybe even the level of salary they achieve when they leave. So some students might not be quite as happy in their undergraduate course, but they might get better jobs when they leave. So do look at the underlying metrics and use it to help you make the right decision. And again, look at the subject by subject rankings as well to get an idea of the subject that you want to study and where it's ranked. So rankings are a good way to kind of get an understanding of universities and get an understanding of where they sit against each other. These rankings, although I've only given the top 10, they cover every single institution. So you can look all the way down into the hundreds. Okay, so we're just going to pop on to the next slide. Moving along a little bit. I'm going to try and speed up a little bit. So applying to UK universities, the main application route is UCAS, so the University Colleges Admission Services. This is one platform. It's an online platform where you can apply to up to 5 courses in universities at any one time. You'll submit a personal statement, you'll submit academic references, and the school that you're at will also be asked to submit references on your behalf. Okay, so most students will apply to 5 universities through the UCAS system. You can apply for direct entry or for a foundation program. Again, foundation programs, as I said, will give you access to a particular university if it's aligned with that university, or a range of universities, and you'll be able to go and either study there at a partner college for 1 year, and then provided you achieve the targets academically and both in terms of your English level, if you're an international student, you'll be able to progress on to year 1 of that undergraduate program. But the majority of students, certainly from our point of view, will apply via UCAS because it gives them 5 choices rather than limit them to one particular university when they're applying directly or for a particular foundation program. Indeed, our foundation program, our students will apply for UCAS as well because it gives them a wider choice of courses. A quick tip there, you'll see at the bottom there, I've got a little tip. Use your 5 options wisely. You can mix ambitious choices, you can have a couple of safety choices, and the universities can't see the other universities that you've applied for. So it's not like a university will go, oh, you've applied for a higher ranked university than us, we're gonna reject you. They can't see that. We advise our students, certainly if a student's ambitious and wants to aim to Oxbridge, we'll make an application for Oxford or Cambridge. You can't apply for both unless it's a very special circumstance. And then we might have a couple of G5 options below that, maybe LSE or Imperial, and then UCL. And then we'll have a couple of Russell Group options below that as well. So the idea is that they have their top choice, but also secondary choices, and then tertiary choices as well. And you make one application for those 5 universities, and you have one personal statement. So this is where it's important to have a clear understanding of the course that you want to study or the subject area. You can have a little bit of change, but obviously you wouldn't be applying for an art course and a science course together, because the personal statement is going to be wildly different for both of those courses, and the profile of what you're studying should be different as well. So it generally is focused in the same area. Deadlines, obviously, we talked about the UCAS process. If we were considering a student who's applying for September this year to go in September or October 2025, if they were an Oxbridge student, or if they're applying for medicine, dentistry, or veterinary sciences, they would have actually been asked to make their application by mid-October. So the deadline is much earlier for Oxbridge and for those medical related courses. The deadline for other universities, other courses, UCL, Imperial, Manchester, Warwick, Bristol, that would be in late January. And then the final deadline for international applicants would be in June. And then we have a period after that where it's called clearing. And what that means is if there are any unfilled places of courses, they will get opened up again and students can reapply for them. Quite often at clearing, universities might lower their entry requirements slightly to fill the places on the courses. Some universities don't tend to clearing at all. Some enter clearing quite widely. So generally there is quite a broad range of subjects, and we do occasionally see students maybe changing between Russell Group universities or going from a university outside of the Russell Group into the Russell Group through clearing. But the reality is, if you're applying for Oxford and Cambridge, clearing is not going to be an option for you. You need to get your application in early, and obviously you would have found out whether you'd have a place quite early as well in the process. A tip, and something we definitely do at our colleges, we encourage our students to apply early, even if they're not applying for Oxford or medicine courses or Oxbridge or medicine courses. The earlier you apply, the better your chances in the system of securing that place. So we certainly expect our students to have made their application before Christmas rather than the January deadline. And like I say, as early as possible, the better for your chances of a place at those more competitive universities. Again, have a look at the level of competitiveness for the course and the university you want to study. You can find information online. You can look at the university websites. You know, if you need to make an early application, it's going to give you a better chance. It's worth doing. And then just the qualifications, just a really brief overview. Obviously, most students applying to the UK universities will have studied A-levels, and previously to that, they will have studied GCSEs. This is the most common application type. You can obviously study these in the UK, or you can study them overseas, things like IGCSEs. Typically, universities will ask for 3 A-level subjects. They will also want to look at your GCSE or secondary schooling, and might have a requirement there. Certainly, the more competitive universities will. But they'll look at 3 A-level subjects, and they will make decisions, or they will offer you a place based upon that. So a university might say, I need you to achieve an A-star grade in maths, an A grade in physics, and an A grade in chemistry to move on to our chemical engineering course. Okay, and there will be a UCAS points tariff as well associated with that. But if you go on the websites, you'll be able to see that very clearly, what their requirements are. IB is not something we offer here, but you can see the entry requirements for IB range from 30 to 38 points, including subject-specific requirements. And then a foundation program will ask you to meet a certain entry requirement based upon the foundation program's assessment criteria. For ours, it's a percentage score. We have a pass rate of around 50%, and then as you go up into 70, 80%, then Russell Group and top ranked universities become available through that foundation program for you. Okay, do feel free to post any questions in the chat or any questions in the Q&A as well while we're going through things. English requirements, I'll cover this very briefly for international students. These vary by universities, so do check the requirements. You'll see my tip down the bottom there. Have a look at them because they do vary quite widely by course and by university. But generally speaking, at IELTS level, they'll want a 6 to 7.5 overall, with minimum scores in each component. For TOEFL, 80 to 100 overall, and they also accept other academic tests as well, such as the Pearson, the Cambridge English tests. If you have studied in English language school, or if you, I would say, in another English-speaking country, then you may be exempt as an international student from sitting the test or from taking the test as part of your application. But again, that's a discussion to have with the universities. Most international students will have to take an IELTS academic test as part of their application to study in the particular university. For our students, we do prepare them in English alongside their A-level subjects or their foundations studies so that they can hit that target pass mark for their university application. Okay, so you have identified a university, you've taken the right course, you've hit the English levels. One of the other things you'll be asked to do as part of that application, I've talked about it very briefly, is to complete a personal statement. So the personal statement used to be a 4,000 character essay, free-form essay that you would write, and you would give that to each university, each of those 5 universities that you've applied for, to read, to consider. It is changing slightly for next year. So in 2026, so any students who are thinking about maybe applying for next year, they will, rather than write a 3-form essay, they will be given 3 questions. They will have the 4,000 character limit to answer those questions, but they can divide that up between answering those 3 questions. And you can see the questions below. Why do you want to study this course or subject? How have your qualifications and studies helped you prepare for this course or subject? And what else have you done to prepare outside of education? And why are these experiences useful? So this has been developed by UCAS working together with the universities to answer what they think are the key questions that you need to answer in order for them to make a judgment as to whether you are, suitable for a place at their university. One thing I would say, although it's questions, you can see they're pretty broad. So the devil's going to be in the detail here, in terms of how you answer them. One thing you need to demonstrate when you make an application is you need to say that you have passion for the subject. You need to show how your academic experiences will prepare you to take on the subject at a higher level, that they are relevant to the subject that you studied. Like I say, if you want to, study physics and your A-level subjects or your background is in art or humanities subject, it's going to be much harder for you to study that than if you studied physics and maths. So it needs to be relevant. And you also need to be able to demonstrate that you have a broad range of experience, knowledge outside of the subject, whether that's IB, A-level, or the foundation. So they want to see that you've been going beyond the subject, looking at what's happening in the field that you want to study, that you have a good understanding of latest developments, that you have a broader knowledge around that subject area. And they also want to see evidence of that. So have you taken part in any work experience? Have you done any of your own research? Have you taken any challenges or competitions in that subject area that show that you are achieving beyond the curriculum? So again, it's really important that you're able to present strong evidence as to why you are an attractive candidate. And remember, when I talk about some universities have a less than 5% acceptance rate, the students applying to those universities are going to have really strong academic backgrounds. They're going to have A stars and A grades at A level. They're going to have the top grades. They're going to have really strong English. So how do you stand out? This is where one of the ways you're able to stand out, through your personal statement. So it really needs to be tight. You need to show practical examples of how you're developing as a learner, how you are passionate for the subject. And you also potentially need to be able to evidence them and talk about them in an interview situation. Because if you are having an interview, if you are doing additional academic tests or additional kind of follow-up with the university, they will probably want to reference your personal statement and to prove that what you've put on there you can actually talk about and you can evidence it. So it's really important that this marries up with your experiences and it presents you in the best possible light, but you can also defend it. Okay, so almost finished, but just coming up on the last little bit, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other considerations that you might want to consider when you're applying to university. Obviously, the fees range quite broadly for international students, but for most undergraduate courses, you're looking between the region of 10,000 and 26,000 per year. Some courses, such as medicine, for example, can be much higher, up to £38,000 per year. Living costs as well. Obviously, you will need to live in a university, live in the UK. The UK is not generally considered to be a cheap country, but living costs can vary. So this might impact your university selection, your location selection, because, for example, if you're living in London, you'll need to have a much higher budget than if you're living in, say, maybe a smaller city or living slightly further north in the UK as well. So that is a consideration to make. Obviously, this is very much dependent on your lifestyle that you intend to have as a student as well. If you're eating out in restaurants and going out, you're going to have a much more expensive lifestyle in a big city than you would in a smaller city, and you're going to have a much more expensive lifestyle than if you're eating at home and spending more nights in. So that's definitely something to think about, the location and how that impacts the costs. As an international student, obviously over 18 years age, you can also work during term time, which is slightly different from if you're a college or a school student. And you can work full time during vacations as well if you're not leaving the college. So that's something to think about as well. Make sure your budget makes sense before you come in. Do your research. I think that's the key tip. Think about any additional costs. Do you want to spend all your time in that city? Are you planning on going to other parts of the UK? Are you planning on having holidays? How is your lifestyle going to be in that city, and how much will that affect your budget? And then just a little bit on fees and scholarships. Universities do offer scholarships. As part of the application process, ask about them, generate more information. You will find quite a lot of scholarship information on the university websites, but if not, you definitely can ask the universities about them. Don't be afraid to. Generally, there are two types of scholarships: those that are merit-based, so they are awarded based on your achievements, both academic and they can be extracurricular. There are quite a lot of sporting scholarships if you're a particularly strong sports student. Universities are quite competitive, so they will give scholarships to strong sports people or athletes. And then they're also needs based. So these are based on the financial situation. You need to be able to demonstrate that there is a financial need there. Like I say, I think for most international students, the main scholarship you might want to look at would be the merit based scholarships, really. But do speak to the university. The other avenue you could explore is to look at local governments, charities, your own government, the UK government, the British Council, for example, offer a number of scholarships as well. So there might be some scholarships that you can unlock through local or international kind of bodies and charities as well. And a tip: if you are looking at scholarships, look early, apply early. There's only so much of a pot to go around, so make sure that you have your application in and you have your scholarship application in early, to give you the best chance of receiving one. Okay, so the final little slide I'm just doing is just on accommodation. So obviously you need somewhere to live while you're at university here in the UK for 3-4 years. So generally speaking, most students will live for their first year of undergraduate studies in on-campus halls of residence, so boarding houses essentially within the university or very close to the university. And then during their second and third years, they'll be asked to move out, so they'll have to find their own accommodation in the city or in the local area of where they live. So generally speaking, students will live together in a shared house for their second and third years, that they will organize themselves. But that does mean that obviously you are paying the bills. You need to make sure that you have a system worked out to live together with other people, to pay those bills, and to share a house and to share a life. There are lots of opportunities for extracurricular activities, to join student societies, clubs, and activities, to develop a passion outside of your studies, to continue the passions that you may already have brought with you. So do look at different clubs and societies that you can join. There are lots of societies that are designed for international students, both broadly from all countries, but also for your specific country. So if you are from Malaysia and you are looking to study at a particular university, ask if they have a Malaysian society. Ask kind of what the provision is for international students to help them settle in. A lot of universities will have an international welcome week. So ask about what happens during that welcome week. Ask about the number of other students from your country that might be there. That might be a positive thing. It might be a negative thing for you. So do find out a little bit more about those societies and clubs. Big part of the university lifestyle is, socializing, building those friendships, building those networks with other students, both from your home country but from all around the world. So do look into that. And then also there are there's lots of academic and well-being support that UK universities offer. This has increased exponentially in recent years. And certainly at the more competitive universities, they are really high pressure environments. So there's a big understanding that there's need to support students, both in their academics, but also in their health and well-being around their studies as well. So there is a lot of resource that you can unlock in the UK, both academically and in terms of that health and well-being side of things. Okay, that's come to the end of it. I've whistled through there, so hopefully it all makes sense. If anyone does have any questions, do let me know. You can post in the chat and the Q&A. Everyone's very quiet, so I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but if you do have any questions, do post them now. You'll see on the screen there as well, hopefully, that we do have some other webinars happening. Next week, we have a virtual open morning for our Cambridge College, Abbey College, Cambridge. And then in May, we do have a virtual open morning for our London College, DLD College London. So you can sign up for those events via scanning the QR code now, or you can also look at the link down the bottom of the page there as well, which gives you a link to the broader range of events we've got running right through the summer. We also have a webinar focusing on our foundation program. So if you are interested in that foundation program, we've talked a little bit about university foundation, but if you want to understand about our foundation program, which gives access to quite a wide range of universities, including Russell Group universities, is available at all 3 of our colleges. Do join that session, because we'll go into a bit more depth about what we offer and the advantage of that foundation program in that event in May. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm hoping I've enabled the chat. Can we receive a recording of this webinar if it is registered? Yes, I will send a copy of the recording. We usually place the recordings on our YouTube channel on our website, but if you do want a physical file as well, just let me know when I respond, and then we can make sure we get that to you as well if it's needed. Okay, so I don't think we've got too many other questions. I can't see anything coming up in the chat and Q&A. Hopefully that was useful. Like I say, it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and it was quite a basic tour. So if you do have any questions following up, if there's anything you want to know, do let us know. Do let our admissions team know. We're very happy to have conversations, to arrange video calls to discuss further and to help you guys with your decision-making process. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Hope you have a lovely rest of the day wherever you are.